watching CBS News continuing coverage of Showdown in the Gulf. From CBS News headquarters in New York, here is Dan Rather.
Deeper we go into day 2 of the Gulf War. Here are among the storylines of the hour. The U.S. loses another warplane, its 2nd officially, and the Allies' 5th officially. Iraq hits Israel with 8 conventional warhead Scud missiles. No Israeli retaliation yet, but neighbor Jordan goes on its highest military alert. Another wave of Allied warplanes blasts Iraq, hitting back for the Scud attack on Israel. U.S. F-16s took off from their bases in Saudi Arabia to carry out President Bush's order to hit Iraqi targets again. Mr. Bush gave the order to retaliate for Iraq's missile attack against Israel. Now, there was some damage from the 8 Scud missiles that landed in Tel Aviv and Haifa and other Israeli areas tonight, but only a dozen minor injuries are reported, and it turned out that none of the Saddam Hussein missiles were tipped with any chemical warheads. This is typical of the damage that was caused by those Scud missiles. In Washington, Israel's ambassador said his country had warned that Saddam Hussein was capable of such a move.
We knew that this was a calculated risk. We have now, unfortunately, been forced to give the proof that this actually happened.
Israel's chief of staff, the chief of the Israeli military staff, says the Iraqi attacks warrant an Israeli response, but so far there is no sign that this is occurring. A 2nd U.S. warplane apparently has gone down, but the loss reportedly is not being confirmed officially because there's some hope that the crew can still be rescued. Now, Ed Bradley's been monitoring reaction in this country to what's going on and also reaction abroad. Ed, these reports that Jordan's military have been placed on their highest alert, first time since the 1967 war that's been done.
It's the highest alert they've had since the 1967 war. And I think Jordan is we tend to overlook Jordan because of what's going on around it, but they're very much a country caught in the middle. If there were to be a ground war involving Iraq going to Israel, for example, they've got to come through Jordan. And the likelihood is if Israel retaliates with an airstrike against Iraq, there's a good possibility that they'd have to go over Jordan. And I think King Hussein is looking at the at people in his country and worried if they will have a country. If there's instability there, if there's chaos there. As one person said, that Israel's looking at the tremendous number of Soviet Jews who are coming in daily, almost daily, to Israel now. They can move the Palestinians out of the West Bank, out of the occupied territories, and into Jordan and make that the Palestinian state. And I don't think King Hussein wants that. So I think that the Jordanians were very much afraid tonight that there might be a retaliatory strike against them because of Iraq's strike against Tel Aviv tonight. And a senior Jordanian military official has said that it was their highest state of alert since 1967. The 20,000 troops that are deployed along the border with Israel were put on a state of alert, and we're quoting here, for any possible Israeli surprise response to the Iraqi attack. A Jordanian official was quoted as saying that his country expected a severe Israeli response to the Iraqi missile attack in Tel Aviv and a nearby suburb. But it's morning there now. It's, as you know, Friday, the day of rest, a day of prayer for Muslims, so that call has gone out to go to the mosques and pray.
Excuse me one moment, Ed. Perhaps we can get a map up of the area, and maybe a little easier for some people who are not all that familiar with the geography of the area to follow. It's a very important point about the Jordanians fully expecting the Israelis to retaliate. So go ahead and we'll try to get a map up of the area.
Well, they're very much caught in the middle. They've got Israel on one side and they've got Iraq on the other side. And if one wants to get at the other, they either have to go through or go over Jordan. And Jordan is a country that is not the most stable country in the Middle East, and particularly given what's going on in Israel today with the Soviet Jews coming in, there are a lot of people who look at Jordan as a possible Palestinian state, and King Hussein is aware of that and aware of what some have described as a tenuous hold on his country. You mentioned earlier the bad weather that was that you think might be a factor over the weekend. We're going to have to watch it over the weekend, but it was a factor tonight at the Saudi air base in Dhahran tonight. We were looking at some pictures of American pilots returning returning from their missions with missiles unfired, as these pictures we're seeing indicated. You'll be able to see some of the planes with their missiles still under the wings. One pilot told CBS News that several missions aimed against surface-to-air missile sites were unsuccessful because of that bad weather.
So we need optimal both conditions and support assets. And when those are all in place, then there won't be any more SAMs.
That pilot also said, Dan, that the surface-to-air missile activity was very heavy in Iraq tonight.
Thanks, Ed. With us now in Amman, Jordan, are the ITN cameraman and the producer who were in Baghdad last night and who made that very revealing and terrific film of the attack on Baghdad, Sebastian Rich and Nigel Baker. First of all, congratulations on your work. We're glad to see you out. We want to put up the film and tell us what you felt were the most significant things you saw and heard.
Sorry, are we watching film?
Not yet. Just go ahead and we'll try to roll it if we can get it up. But just tell us straightforwardly, what to you were the most significant things that you saw and heard as that night of battle lighting up the sky droned on?
Well, certainly the battle did light up the skies. The Iraqi ground defense systems, I think, were actually more pretty than effective. It's the first time I've seen a cruise missile land. I mean, it does light up the entire night sky, turn it into daylight. But as I say, the Iraqi defense systems were more pretty than effective.
Nigel Baker, how about you? What were the most impressive things you saw and heard?
Well, I think that one of the main things is that obviously people initially weren't sure how heavy this attack was going to be. A lot of people went to the shelters at first until they knew what was happening. But obviously the cruise missiles were very, very precise. They left most of the town centre, in fact, in Baghdad, intact. And despite an awful amount of anti-aircraft fire, the missiles landing, it looked spectacular at night, but did by obviously what the Americans must regard as a very effective job. Buildings on the ground the following morning could be seen with the backs blown out. One telecommunications building was left a heap of twisted metal, broken glass, bent satellite dishes on the roofs. But astonishingly, across the road, a bus station, people were carrying on life as normal, and the whole area was almost as normal apart from that one building. And that was I think the thing that sort of had the most impact on me, that you expected to see the following morning a devastated landscape, and what you saw was in fact particularly targeted areas, and despite the spectacular displays the night before, it had been a very surgical operation by the American forces.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the hotel itself that we were filming from is actually smack bang in the middle of a military area, but just 1 kilometre away from it is a military airfield, and the Ministry of Defence, which was hit 3 times, is just about half a kilometre away, so the precision bombing or precision missiling was absolutely spot on.
May I follow up on that? I find this very interesting. I think our audience will as well. There's a great skepticism among Americans and worldwide when someone talks about the precision of the cruise missiles. Everybody says, yeah, but you get in combat, they won't be that precise. I gather by what you saw and what you're saying now that you were struck by the precision of the missiles, that they were on target, and it is entirely possible that civilian casualties were kept down, at least during this attack, because of that.
Well, it's the safest bombing raid I've ever been in. I mean, you don't, in a bombing raid, say in Beirut, you immediately take cover, but it became apparent that they were only going after strategic targets. So if that's anything to go by, we felt safe at that period of time because we knew that they were going for strategic targets.
It's also interesting that beforehand, obviously, there'd been a lot of speculation as to what the targets would be. I mean, it seemed sensible that if you want to sound a warning to the country and destroy some of its defences, that government buildings, telecommunications centres, runways would be the obvious targets. The Iraqis have been aware of this, and for the previous 24 hours before the attack, a large area of the city had emptied, and a lot of the government buildings had also emptied. I saw personally 2 or 3 days ago one government building, people removing documents. They were preparing for this. So in that sense, certainly the first night's fire, which we witnessed, served the effect of sounding a warning to Saddam Hussein and his people without inflicting too many civilian casualties. At least that's our surmise, because the Iraqis yesterday were not making any mention of numbers of civilian casualties at all, and their perception of how many of the battle in the skies was very different. We were told with glee by one border guard last night that they thought 44 American, British and other planes had been hit out of the sky. I believe they're now claiming that's gone up to 60, which is very different to the West perception of what happened.
Sebastian Rich, Nigel Baker, thank you very much. Again, congratulations, and we're glad to see you out of there.
Thank you.
Reaction is coming in from the British and the French to the Iraqi attacks on Israel. We'll have some of it for you as our CBS News coverage of the war continues.
This is not what you want in a shave. Now you've got the edge. This is the shave with 6 rich lubricants. This is the shave that reduces irritation. This is the shave. For less irritation, you've got the edge.
From Walt Disney Pictures, on the Alaskan frontier, where nature is man's greatest challenge. A boy rescues a baby wolf.
What chance would a wolf cub have of surviving on his own out here?
None. And as they grow, they form an extraordinary friendship.
You're gonna be okay.
Walt Disney Pictures presents a classic adventure. Jack London's White Fang, rated PG. Now playing at a theater near you.
Years ago, when this was my piano, your mom helped me dust it with Pledge.
Now that it's ours, I use Touchable Pledge.
With Pledge, smears just disappear.
I taught someone that
Same song.
Also in a trigger spray bottle.
Clarence, now in wintergreen flavor too.
Tell Nuprin where it hurts.
It hurts behind my eyes. Right here.
Nuprin works at the site of pain, right at the spot. It helps stop the chemical reaction that triggers pain.
Headache? What headache?
Tell Nuprin where it hurts.
I overdid it. Pain's right in the small of my back.
Nuprin works at the site of pain. It has ibuprofen. It actually works right at the spot, right where you need it.
Pain's gone. Back feels great.
Tell Nuprin where it hurts.
The war thunders on, threatens to widen. Here are headlines of the hour. In Washington, President Bush orders retaliation for Iraq's missile attacks on Israel. President Bush said to be, quote, outraged at the attacks on civilian targets. France condemns the assault. So does Great Britain. Another U.S. warplane believed lost. Here is Baghdad this morning. Pictures of a war capital after the first attacks as daylight comes on. The fog-shrouded city Baghdad appears to be quiet, but maybe not quiet for long. President Bush has ordered more attacks on Iraq and Kuwait, hitting back for Iraq's Scud missile strikes on Israel during this night. White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater said President Bush was outraged at the Iraqi move, condemned the attack, and said efforts were underway to, quote, eliminate the Iraqi missile threat. Israel says it still reserves the right to respond on its own to the attack, but so far no sign that Israeli planes actually are striking back on their own. The French Foreign Ministry has issued a communique. As we look at some of the pictures of the damage from Israel, the French Foreign Ministry communique condemns, quote, with greatest firmness the attack on Israel. And the Pentagon says a second U.S. plane is now missing. One was reported down yesterday. Mark Phillips is at the Pentagon now. Mark, what's the latest?
Dan, it seems that notwithstanding the diplomatic discussions that took place earlier this evening between the White House and the Israeli ambassador here, and indeed the Israeli Prime Minister in Israel, that there's still considerable discussion continuing in Israel, as you mentioned the report from the Israeli High Command, who take their responsibility for protecting the Israeli populace very seriously and consider it a matter of great pride that the Israeli Air Force has been able to target the origins of terrorist attack into Israel over the year and the protecting of the population they see as, they say, their responsibility. The Pentagon this evening, and indeed the entire American war effort, is struggling with just what shape the retaliation ought to take. The obvious targets, of course, are to find these mobile Scud missile launchers. If that were easy, those launchers would have been found over the first 2 days because, of course, the Scuds were a priority target in this American war plan. So there's considerable pressure on the Air Force and the Navy flyers now to protect Israel, and because there was an attack as well, a Scud missile fired at Saudi Arabia today, to protect American forces from this, what has now become quite real Scud threat.
Thanks, Mark Phillips. Mark, one point, I want to double check our figures. The official figures, which may not turn out to be the accurate figures, may or may not, 5 Allied aircraft now down, 2 of those American, 2 British, 1 piloted by a Kuwaiti in an attack on Iraqi forces in Kuwait.
Those are the numbers we have as well. There has been no official confirmation that a second American plane is missing, although we can tell you we believe that to be the case. We can't tell you, for various reasons, where we think that plane came from.
We're going to go now to CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Bob Schieffer, who is manning the map and trying to chart the direction of the military campaign. He's now with Stan Weeks, one of our CBS News military analysts. Bob?
Dan, as we sort of await the results of the latest air raid into Iraq by American planes, Commander Weeks and I, he is a retired naval officer, a military analyst, have been talking about if indeed a war comes on the ground, as most of the analysts think it will. One of the things we really haven't talked about yet is the possibility of an amphibious assault on Kuwait. There are Marines out in the Persian Gulf. Tell us a little bit about what we might expect. Is this the kind of place where an amphibious assault could actually be of some value?
Yes, there are about 20,000, over 20,000 U.S. Marines afloat in the Persian Gulf area, and as if a ground attack becomes necessary, as the other forces move, clearly anywhere along this coastline there's potential and probability, I would say, that those forces could be used to supplement that attack. They carry their own tanks and artillery ashore through both small landing craft and helicopter envelopment. Amphibious warfare is very complex, particularly facing the type of defenses that the Iraqis have put in this area. It's complex in the need to move those forces from the ship to the shore and the various vulnerabilities from mines close in to air attack, which should be somewhat reduced by the air superiority we would have before that.
Well, is this indeed a good place for an amphibious assault? I mean, this is not a great distance from here to there. This is not hundreds of miles of coastline here. It's a fairly compressed area.
It is a more defined area, and some of the bottom contours of the water are not the best for it, but there's numerous opportunity even in this more restricted area. Also worth noting is that the current air attacks, as well as the possible use of the 16-inch guns on the 2 battleships we have in there, if we did need to soften this up, as we will before the landing, should reduce some of the inherent complexity of this operation.
Your real area of expertise is naval warfare, as it were. We have seen the Tomahawk missiles fired from the battleships. We have not seen the battleships' big guns as yet. Why do you suppose that is?
Well, they really haven't had an opportunity to come in and be used in this area. It's generally preferable to try and take out the air threat and the air defenses before coming in closer with the battleships, although they can fire those guns from over the horizon 25 miles away, a shell the size of a Volkswagen.
All right, well, that's another perspective on the ground, the war down below, Dan, once this air phase is completed. Back to you.
Thanks, Bob. Our CBS News coverage of the Persian Gulf War will continue after these messages.
Introducing Glade Plug-ins Air Freshener. It keeps
on freshening
And freshening.
And freshening.
Plug it in, plug it in.
New Glade plug-ins freshens for 30 days.
Plug it in, plug it in.
Gently, constantly warms this refill cartridge for a full 30 days.
Freshens 30 days, freshens out of your way. Plug it in, plug it in.
After 30 days, just pop in a refill. Try Glade plug-ins and plug into 30-day freshness.
Plug it in.
A night for Excedrin PM.
This was no day to be me.
It's mine!
Someone had to tell you.
Termites. They said no spouses, so
I can't sleep and my head aches.
You want more than just a pain reliever. You want Excedrin PM. Strong aspirin-free headache medicine plus a gentle second ingredient to help you sleep through the night for a fresh start tomorrow. Excedrin PM. Headache medicine, and it helps you sleep.
Static Cling can make you feel like this. What's your solution? Static Guard. Static Guard eliminates static cling instantly, completely. Get Static Guard. It's your best solution for static cling.
A sink isn't the only place Woolite cleans safely and gently. Use the delicate cycle, and a lot of your hand washing won't need your hands.
It's not simply a game. It's an era of fitness, health, muscle development, body toning, beauty, and power. It's the era of Soloflex. Become a part of it. Call anytime for a free brochure.
Dateline Jerusalem. Foreign Minister David Levy told Israeli radio tonight, and I quote, "We are in consultations," that is with the United States. "I can't say more than that, but one thing is clear to everyone. It is Israel's right and also its duty to take steps for its defense." This is in relation to Saddam Hussein's hitting Israel with Scud missiles tonight. The Israeli Foreign Minister said, "All night long we were in consultations. This morning we will consider our next step and decide the way of action." Question: can you entrust the United States to abide by its promise to respond fully? The Israeli Foreign Minister was asked, and he responded, and I quote, "This development is serious. It proves Iraq still has the means," unquote. Part of the still developing new dimension presented in the Persian Gulf War by the Scud missile attack on Israel. Our CBS News coverage of events in the war will continue after these brief messages. Last evening, we talked to 3 residents of the Hartford, Connecticut area to get their differing views on the Allied attack on Iraq. Tonight, we've invited 3 other residents of that area to talk about the situation and what has happened in the meantime, namely, and mostly, Iraq's missile attack on Israel, which threatens to change the dynamic of the war. Joining us are Tony Guglielmo, I hope I haven't mispronounced your name, Mr. Guglielmo, the president of a small insurance company who ran for Congress on the Republican ticket, Karen Price, who is a real estate attorney, and Cheryl Greenberg, who is a history professor at Trinity College. Thank you all for joining us. What's your reaction to the events of tonight, and has it changed your opinion about the war?
Really, no. I think that it's a dangerous turn, really, a problem, but it really kind of points out what a dangerous and desperate opponent we had, someone who had attacked his neighbors, 3 of his neighbors, really, in the last decade, Iran, Kuwait, and now Israel. So I think that it at least proved to me that waiting on the sanctions, which is something I wasn't sure of before, I really feel now that it would not have worked.
Karen Price?
Well, I don't think that the attack on Israel was unexpected. I think we all knew it was a tactic that would be used, and it would be used to try to break the coalition. I think the challenge now is to not have it break down that coalition, to stay the course, and to try to eliminate our involvement in that area with as little losses of life as possible.
And Cheryl Greenberg, you're a history professor. Maybe you can bring some historical perspective to this.
Unfortunately, in the Middle East, there's either so much history that you don't know how to answer it, or too little history because it's so complicated. things seem to change day by day, and it's hard to know what to think from one minute to the next. What's very upsetting is that war seems to be killing everybody on both sides, and we've been arming, if you want to look at history, we've been arming Iraq against Iran. Most of Iraq's military capacity comes from outside sources, and it seems to me that all we're doing is fueling this historically, and we can't really look at it in the past month. We really have to look at it in the past few years.
Mr. Guillermo, you ran for Congress on the Republican ticket. There are rumbles in Washington that the Republican campaign hierarchy is licking its lips, believing that President Bush is, as the polls, our new CBS News New York Times poll indicates, on such a high out of this that it can be turned and leveled against the Democrats. Your opinion, is that a wise way to proceed? It certainly could be politically advantageous, but we're talking about now how to hold the country together.
Well, yeah, I think that'd be a dangerous thing to do, to make that a re-election theme, especially since there's so much time between now and the election, and usually the economy's paramount in an election. Hopefully, I think most people believe this will be over in weeks and at the most months, and there'll be such a gap between now and the next election. I think it would be something that will be in the background, and then the economy and the pocketbook issues will take over as they usually do.
Karen Price, have you seen anything on television, heard anything on radio, seen in the newspapers? You said yourself, I wish they wouldn't do that, or you think is unfair?
No, I think the more information that the American people have, the better. And we can't soft pedal the bad aspects of war. That makes it too easy. We've got to face this with true reality and make our decisions about how we proceed based on real live information, not on being spoon-fed figures or facts from a source that may be biased.
Cheryl Greenberg, what are you hearing from your students at Trinity College and elsewhere? What are they talking to you about? A picture is sort of created that most students are opposed to the war. Is that accurate in your experience?
Well, I haven't taken a poll, but this morning at the peace rally that was held in Hartford, there were 35 students. It was 7 in the morning, which is remarkable for students to get up. So I thought that was a good turnout. This evening, I was on a panel discussion at Trinity. It was just called as a community-wide meeting, and I would say there were 1,000 students there. There are only 2,000 students at Trinity. I think everyone's very concerned. There are people who support the war and people who are against it, but on both sides they're being pretty active. Students got arrested this morning, and I think they're taking a stand, whichever stand they happen to be taking. They're being pretty active about it.
Now, Mr. Guillermo, you, as a president of a small insurance company, get around, I would think, around a coffee shop with older people. What fears, what concerns do they express to you as you talk to them?
Well, you know, it's funny. We were talking about that a little bit before. I talked to two men who were World War II veterans, and one came in the office and he was totally behind the president and really had very little patience with people who took an opposing view. And then later in the afternoon I talked to another World War II veteran, and his opinion I thought would be the same, and he was 180 degrees, totally opposed, didn't understand why we'd be in that part of the world, and couldn't see any useful purpose to be served by us being there. So it's pretty split. And, well, even in my own family, it's pretty split.
We have only a short while left here, but Karen Price, among your friends and neighbors who are Americans who happen to be black, do they talk about the high percentage of blacks in the all-volunteer Army and those who are in harm's way around the Persian Gulf just now?
Most definitely. It's a matter of concern to almost every black person that I speak to. The concern is both what happens, what opportunities are given to young black Americans, and are they in effect forced into the Army, but also there's pride for the good work that those young people are doing.
Cheryl Greenberg, is there any talk that this war may cause the draft to be started again? The students, do they talk about that? Are they worried about that?
Absolutely. In fact, we were just talking about this. If you want to get students out to an anti-war rally, you just put on the poster, "War means draft," and they show up. It's very scary. I have a sister in Tel Aviv and her fiancé in Baghdad. It is terrifying to think that your life is on the line, and it's not quite clear to them why it's on the line. So yes, they're very nervous.
Thanks to all three of you for being with us tonight and for sharing the information and views. We appreciate it very much. Our CBS News coverage of the Persian Gulf War continues.
are watching CBS News' continuing coverage of Showdown in the Gulf. From CBS News headquarters in New York, here is Dan Rather.
With Walter Cronkite, Conti Chung, and others from our worldwide news gathering facilities of CBS News. These are among the headlines in our ongoing Gulf coverage. First, Dateline Jerusalem. It's more than a headline, a possible Israeli retaliation. Let's hold right here. This is a new development. Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir has summoned his cabinet to decide whether Israel should retaliate and will retaliate for the Iraqi missile attack against the Jewish state. This is according to Israeli radio. The United States, President Bush has promised an appropriate response to the firing of missiles by Iraq on Israel, and the Israeli government ministers are going to have to decide today, this morning, whether they are satisfied for now with this promise by President Bush, or whether Israel will activate on its own its right to self-defense. Now, this is a direct quote from Baghdad Radio, that which just read to you. Israeli radio said Israel was in, quote, very close contact with the United States, which would continue that close contact until Shamir convened the meeting of his government. So Yitzhak Shamir is summoning his cabinet to decide whether Israel should retaliate. Now, continuing on with the headlines of the hour, Allied warplanes are already retaliating, ordered by President Bush to hit Iraq again. Special attention paid to the mobile Scud missile fires, which apparently fired off the missiles that hit Israel. Highest military alert ordered in Jordan. First time that's happened since 1967. Allied warplane losses reach 5. 2 of those are American planes down. The Israeli chief of staff says that his forces are obliged by the seriousness of the Scud missile hits on civilian targets to retaliate. But, and this could be important, he did not say when or if this retaliation would actually happen. Retaliating on Israel's behalf right now are U.S.-led Allied warplanes. They were ordered by President Bush to go immediately back into Iraq again. The number of targets and apparently the kinds of targets may have been widened. In Washington, Senate Republican leader Bob Dole says an Israeli reprisal could have a heavy impact.
Depending on the seriousness, if the Israelis respond, put considerable strain on the coalition. I think that may have been the back of everyone's mind when you listen to Saddam Hussein over the past 3 or 4 months.
The 8 Scuds with their conventional warheads, no chemical warheads, conventional warheads, blasted Tel Aviv, Haifa, and some other areas of Israel. There was damage. You're seeing videotape of damage in and around Tel Aviv, but only 12 minor injuries and no one killed is the official version of casualties. Deceptive calm in Baghdad this Friday morning, Iraq time. This is videotape from Baghdad today this morning. New photographs show a light haze and some fog over Baghdad. Almost deserted streets, perhaps in anticipation of more Allied attacks, not only by the warplanes, but by the cruise missiles. Contrast with the scene Wednesday night. That's what you're seeing now, when the warplanes and the missiles first came thundering in. Thunderous gunfire was heard as the Iraqis tried to bring down the warplanes and or the missiles. Latest Iraqi claims have 60 Allied warplanes shot down. The Allies say that's ridiculous, that their losses now are 5 downed planes, 2 of those being U.S. planes. In an interview with the ITN producer and cameraman who shot those films from Baghdad a few moments ago here on CBS News, they said they were struck as they shot those films and looked the next morning at how accurate and how precise the cruise missiles had been, and they gave some credence to reports that the civilian casualties may turn out to be surprisingly low. This was their view because they watched those cruise missiles come in and they said that they were deadly precise in their accuracy. Now joining me once again to give some context and perspective and analysis is Walter Cronkite. Walter, now's the time to talk about what you've been trying to talk about for quite a little while this evening, and that is the cost of the war. Now, today the stock market shot way up, oil prices are down, but nobody really has talked much about how much this war is costing.
No, they haven't done, and it hardly seems the appropriate time, really, because what we're thinking about now, and all of our hearts and minds are concentrating on the cost in human lives of the war on both sides. But we should be thinking about the cost of the war because something should be perhaps being done about that at the time. President Bush promised that there wouldn't be another Vietnam. And militarily, he has indicated that he certainly intends that this will not be another Vietnam. We're going to hit them hard, keep on hitting them until we win. That's great. But there was another side to Vietnam, and that was the terrible financial cost of Vietnam. LBJ, Lyndon Johnson, And Mr. Nixon did not choose to try to pay for that war as we went. They were fearful that any heavy war taxation would alienate that already diminishing portion of the American people who supported the war. And they were afraid of the political fallout of that. Now, the result of that has been that this was the start of the great indebtedness of the United States that has unfortunately mortgaged the future of our next several generations well into the 21st century. It was that, and then the profligate spending without adequate taxation of the 80s, and now that terrible burden of the savings and loan scandals. Our future is mortgaged. We're not going to be able to pay for the proper education, health, infrastructure, narcotics, crime fighting, all of those things. We're just not going to be able to do it. But to load an extra burden of this war upon the very people who are out there fighting it, the young people, they're going to come home and have to carry the financial burden as well. Doesn't seem to be fair and right. And it could, that same thing could turn the American people sort of against the fairness of the war. I think the American people need to make a sacrifice on the domestic front in order to participate in the war effort itself. It's a psychological thing as well as a financial thing. So it would seem to me that with this terrible cost, we ought to be trying a pay-as-you-go war tax right now. We ought to all, it's going to be too late another few months down the line. Then it's already a burden that we're going to have to pay sometime and not leave with our children and their children and their children. We need a war tax now. Look at the cost of this war. The cost of the ammunition alone that we have fired off in the last, 24 hours, and one day, is around $500 million. Ammunition alone. The cruise missile is $1.3 million. That F-18 we lost is $31 million worth of equipment. It's a fantastically expensive thing. And we're going deeper and deeper into that financial hole to pay for this war. Now, why shouldn't we pay for it now? We're the people who voted for it. Our representatives voted for it in Congress. We're the people who said, let's go out there and spend that money and do this thing. Why don't we pay for it instead of waiting for our grandchildren to pay for it? That's my point. A lecture, I'm afraid, but it seems to me something we ought to be thinking about.
Walter Cronkite, thanks. Our CBS News coverage will continue after these messages.
When 4 slender, no-fat calories taste like butter, it's got to be Molly.
The same medicine found in the prescription drug Motrin.
The same medicine found in the prescription drug Motrin.
Same as in Motrin in non-prescription strength.
The same medicine found in the prescription drug.
Did you ever notice that a lot of pain relievers seem to be saying the same thing? Well, if you want the same medicine found in the prescription drug Motrin, wouldn't it just be simpler to ask for Motrin IB? Non-prescription strength Motrin IB. You can't buy a more effective pain reliever without a prescription. Motrin IB. Accept no alternatives.
How much insulation do you have in your attic? 3 inches? 6 inches? Well, the Department of Energy recommends R38 for most American homes, which is equivalent to a foot of Owens Corning pink fiberglass. So grab a ruler and measure your attic insulation. Then get rolling, because 12 inches of pink fiberglass can help you get a foothold on your energy bills.
When you rinse first with Plax, normal everyday brushing takes on a whole new meaning. Plax, clinically proven to remove more plaque than brushing alone.
I won't wear anything without Cross Your Heart, because great looks start with Cross Your Heart. With crisscross shaping, I always look better.
The Cross Your Heart bra. Great looks start with Cross Your Heart from Playtex.
The fit that makes the fashion.
Live on the telephone from Israel now is CBS News correspondent Bill McLaughlin. Bill, bring us up to date.
Can you hear me, Dan?
Yes, Bill, good day. Bring us up to date. We've heard the report that Yitzhak Shamir has called a special meeting of the Israeli cabinet to decide whether or not Israel should retaliate or not.
That's right, Dan. And as far as I can tell, they're still meeting now. A spokesman said that Israel and Washington are in very close contacts. Basically, they're trying to decide whether or not to allow the U.S. to take care of retaliation. At the moment, some officials are telling me the tendency is for Israel to just relax, take it easy, and see just how thorough U.S. retaliation is for this and whether or not the threat is completely taken out. Behind that, there is the implied message that if the U.S. does not do the job, if Israel suspects there are some mobile missiles still out there, launches still out there, the threat still exists, they really don't want this country to go through another night like this. Tel Aviv, one neighborhood that's been really badly hit. We just saw some paper that I just came in from visiting one area where 5 very large houses and buildings were completely destroyed, and some 80 families are homeless. Miraculously, though, only about 7 people were wounded, and most of them quite lightly wounded. The damage up at Haifa is about the same, too. Mayor of Tel Aviv, who was in here not too long ago, said he was really proud of the way his city handled this. People were not rattled. They were not scared to death. They handled it very well. Everyone did exactly as they were supposed to with the gas masks, going to the shelters. And I can just say that just from driving through this town, I'm amazed at how disciplined people have been.
Bill McLaughlin, you have such long and wide experience in Israel, and I know you're aware that it's sometimes difficult for some Americans to understand how embattled the Israelis feel. Now, certainly there are people who have other views, but for those who live in Israel, Israel being the only true democracy in the area, the strongest ally of the United States, but a country that feels that it absolutely can, in the end, perhaps only depend on itself to defend itself. Here's a country sees Saddam Hussein, and Hussein made it very clear in the 3 hours I spent with him in Baghdad not too long ago, that while this whole crisis is centered for the moment in the Persian Gulf, his dream, Saddam Hussein's dream, is to lead a triumphant Arab army into Jerusalem and crush Israel. And that's the bedrock around which the Israeli reaction to something such as tonight happens, isn't it?
Yes, it's truly incredible the way these people behave. I mean, I hope that our own people would behave the same way in an attack. People are incredibly friendly, incredibly cooperative, but very cool, very steady. There is, you can tell, there is a seething anger beneath all of that, but on the surface, people are behaving admirably. There's a tremendous amount of cooperation, and there is also this, which just amazes me. The way people stick by their radios and watch the television, and there is such incredible trust in their government, whether they're Labor or the Likud, whether they're right-wing or left-wing or middle of the road. When there's a crisis, when this country is threatened, they're just absolutely certain that their government won't abandon them. Their government will just take the right decisions, and of course, beyond that, their faith in their military is unsurpassed.
Bill McLaughlin in Israel. Thanks, Bill. With more information unfolding, these are among the headlines as we try to, every quarter of an hour, bring you up to date. Israeli cabinet in the midst of considering striking back at Iraq on its own. President Bush orders U.S. and other allied warplanes to retaliate for the Iraqi assault on Israel. Top Israeli officials suggest that Israel will respond. A second U.S. warplane reported down. Israel's Prime Minister Shamir has reported he has summoned his cabinet into session under discussion whether Israel itself should retaliate for Iraq's missile attack. In Jerusalem, Israel's chief of military staff has called the attack, and I quote now, very serious, and he says, again quoting, such an incident requires a response. He would not elaborate, and he would not say flatly if Israel intended its own retaliation. Up to now, it has been the United States that's been responding. President Bush ordered still more assaults on Iraq and Kuwait in retaliation. The Iraqi Scud missile attacks on Israel caused some damage, some casualties, none of the casualties said to be serious. This is videotape of how much damage one of the Scud missiles with a conventional warhead caused in one Tel Aviv working-class neighborhood. A second U.S. jet plane is reported lost in the raids on Iraq and Kuwait. The first, declared missing officially, was an F-18 Hornet fighter off the carrier Saratoga. Its pilot, now identified by the Pentagon, listed officially missing in action, is Navy Lieutenant Commander Michael S. Spiker, 33 years old, assigned to the carrier Saratoga. Let's go live to KCBS reporter Jody Baskerville, who is at the campus of UCLA, the University of California at Los Angeles, where there were peace demonstrations tonight. Jody, good evening.
Good evening, Dan. About 300 students have been occupying the ground floor of the administration building here on campus for about 10 hours now. Now, the students are demanding that all classes be suspended next Thursday in favor of a teach-in about the war. Now, many of the students boycotted classes today in order to take part in this sit-in. They tell me they will not leave until administrators agree to a day of peace and a day of education. Now, Chancellor Charles Young is out of town, but he did get word to the students. He said they could stay here through the night, but they would have to leave in the morning. He also agreed to meet with student leaders sometime in the afternoon. So far, Dan, no arrests have been made.
Jody, in talking with them, do you find any difference of opinion? Do you find anybody saying, oh, this is the way I feel, but I'm a little uncomfortable because a lot of people my age have their lives on the line out in the Persian Gulf?
No, Dan. Really, it's kind of reminiscent of the 60s, the demonstrations that used to take place here on the campus of UCLA when this was a hotbed of activism. The students are very committed to their feelings of no war, peace now. They've been chanting the slogans and really coming out in favor of peace.
Jody Baskerville of station KCBS. Thanks, Jody. War is dividing the Middle East. That is a given, but it's also polarizing certain of us right here at home. 60 Minutes correspondent Meredith Vieira found a college campus noted for its past controversies where tempers today got very hot.
I pray for their souls, but I'm glad they're gone.
They stood across from each other on the campus of Columbia. On one side, some 350 students opposed to the war.
Money for housing, not for war.
Our numbers are still small, one of the organizers told me, because the war caught us by surprise.
We had to go in and restore order.
On the other side, a much smaller group calling itself SMASH, students mobilized against Saddam Hussein, waving American flags, a lonely voice on a liberal campus, but claiming to represent the mainstream.
The left on campus has totally lost any notion of right or wrong. They don't know.
And when the two sides came together, there was tension and a different kind of rhetoric.
Right now.
Both evoked the troops while attacking each other's positions.
What you're out here for right now is against our troops right now. You're stabbing them in the back and undermining them.
We support the troops. What the Bush administration policy in the Gulf is all about is killing people.
In talking with those students taking it all in, we sensed there was no consensus on this campus that once rallied against another war 20 years ago. Just a lot of questions.
Before this started, I was against the war. I don't believe in war, but now, I mean, it's a question of it's done. The die is cast. It's happening. And what message are we sending to the troops if we're constantly protesting against the war and telling them that we don't care while they're dying out there for their cause?
If I were to reflect the mood honestly on this campus, what would I say?
No,
It's divided.
I would say that I think we're all scared. And no matter what side you're on, I mean, this is a frightening thing. This is the first time that our generation has ever faced something like this. I mean, it's scary to come home after classes at 7 o'clock and see that we're at war.
The students at Columbia on day one of the war, looking for light in the midst of heat. Meredith Vieira, CBS News.
CBS News coverage of the war in the Gulf will continue in a moment.
Is someone joining you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. A blind date.
Hi, I'm...
Julie? It's nice to meet you.
Why don't we go someplace else? The service here is kind of unpredictable.
Crisp, clean Dentine. We'll take care of your breath. The rest is up to you.
Come on and lose that weight, get your body slim. Lose yourself in the taste. You gotta
Dynatrim, the weight loss plan from the makers of Centrum. Just blend for a delicious shake. Blend longer for a creamy mousse. Or freeze it for a frozen treat. Come on, lose yourself in the taste.
More delicious ways to lose it. Shake it, freeze it, creamy mousse it. You've never been so thin. Introducing Dynatrim. Lose yourself in the taste.
When you're cooking your best, nothing tastes quite like butter. Nothing bastes quite like butter. Nothing bakes quite like butter.
Butter.
Butter! When you're cooking your best, nothing tastes quite like butter.
Introducing Glade Plug-ins Air Freshener. It keeps
On freshening. And freshening.
And freshening.
Plug it in, plug it in. New Glade Plug-ins freshens for 30 days. Plug it in, plug it in. Gently, constantly warms this refill cartridge for a full 30 days. Freshens 30 days, freshens out of your way. Plug it in, plug it in. After 30 days, just pop in a refill. Try Glade Plug-ins and plug into 30-day freshness. Plug it in.
I'm a second-half quarterback.
That was a stellar performance.
15 pieces of chicken or a supersized bucket of hot wings, just $9.99 each.
Anytime you're ready, gentlemen.
Super buckets from KFC.
Come on, Dad.
Well, you think you have problems? Consider for a moment the theater commander, the man in charge of all U.S. military forces in and around the Persian Gulf. Norman, as they call him, Norman Schwarzkopf, former West Point football player, wounded veteran of the Vietnam War, now commanding all the military forces. You're General Schwarzkopf. You have more bosses than Quaker has oats. You got a lot of problems, got a war to run, a coalition to keep in. Now, tonight, Scud missiles land on Israel. Suddenly, Norman Schwarzkopf is getting all kinds of help from all kinds of directions, saying, listen, why haven't your planes wiped out the mobile Scud missile fires in Iraq? With bad weather moving in Iraq, General Schwarzkopf, who was trying to get his forces correlated to move on the offensive for possibly a ground attack to free Kuwait, now has to take into consideration, listen, I've got to get these aircraft, get aircraft assigned to go in there and try to wipe out these moving. Keep in mind, these Scud missile fires are mobile, they move from place to place. He's got to assign aircraft to that. President Bush, quote, outraged about the Scud missile attacks on Israel, has ordered more retaliatory attacks immediately on Iraq. And all the same time, General Schwarzkopf is trying to keep the French, the British, the Egyptians, and yes, our new good friends, the Syrians, all lined up. You think you've got troubles? Might want to consider tonight the problems of General Schwarzkopf. Our CBS News coverage of the war in the Gulf will continue in a few moments with Connie Chung, so stick here with us. Back at CBS News War Coverage Headquarters here in New York. Connie Chung, you've been watching reaction to what's going on in the Gulf and measuring reaction all around the country. What have you got for us?
Dan, one of the most difficult things, one of the most difficult jobs of this past day and a half is how to explain war to children, particularly this war, this sudden war. Bruce Morton reports.
Today we want to talk about the kinds of things that are on our minds when we think about our dads being away. George?
Gene Oliver is counseling these children at Burbank Elementary School in Hampton, Virginia. That's a military town, and all of these kids' fathers are in the military in the Gulf.
If it was up to me and I was a general, I'd send my dad back. I would like my dad to come home, and I would like to go over there with him and spend time with him. Well, when I'm with him, he helps me a lot with my homework, and when I don't understand a problem, he usually sits me down for a little while and talks it over with me to make sure I understand.
What about real life do you really care about, Matthew?
My father.
Your father.
The kids miss their fathers. Mrs. Oliver tries to help.
Can you share that with me, things that we can do as a group? Excuse me? Comfort each other, Sarah, that's good.
I would give all my heart to my father and the other troops, in Saudi, and I hope that all of them, even my dad, to come home safe.
I hope that my dad will come back, because if he doesn't come back, then that might make me think that he's dead or something.
Mrs. Oliver is good at her job, but this is a tough day for the children.
I feel sad.
Lonely.
Sad. I feel sad too.
The marks of war in one small place. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
Not just those children, Dan, but all Americans trying to come to grips with the new reality of going to war. Dan?
Thanks, Connie. Let's go now to Bob Schieffer with General George Christ, a military consultant, retired U.S. Marine Corps General. Bob and General Christ, what should we be looking for now in the directions of how the war may go?
Well, I think the first thing, Dan, the General and I have been talking, we'll want to know what the results of the raid on Iraq has been this morning. The raid that the President has apparently ordered, General, in retaliation for the missile attack on Israel during the night. One of the things that we've been talking about here that has sort of slipped through the cracks, General, we've been talking about a big missile war. There's also been a small missile war that has kind of gone unreported. Why don't you tell us about that?
Exactly. Well, we're talking about Scuds, Bob. The little missiles. There's a missile called a Frog. A Frog is a missile that goes all the way back to 1965. It's carried with these units. It only goes about 42 miles, and it's a little mobile missile. Thursday, the Iraqis decided to fire one of their Frog missiles at the Marines. The Marines weren't having any of that. They took up their Cobra gunships. This is a helicopter, the Marine version of the Apache that we've heard about, and they went in after these Frog missiles and destroyed most of them in their batteries. So not only do we have a little missile war, but we probably had our first war along the lines in the ground war.
Well, you and I talked last night about the Apache helicopters and how they were actually going across the border and attacking troop emplacements there. Right. Now we now know with this information of a second attack on troops from across the border by Marines. Any idea, General, from just this report of how extensive that kind of fighting has been? While we've heard so much about the air war, we've heard very little about a ground war.
I think it's getting subsumed, Bob, but in the big war, the big missile and the big air war. But you know, these forces are getting pretty close to each other. I've read reports where they could actually hear some of the Iraqi tanks moving around from the other side of the line. So we're beginning to get the first clashes across this side of the line. And in fact, when the Iraqis attack, as they did with the artillery, indeed, our artillery and gunships responded.
Let's talk a little bit about the bigger missiles, too, the missiles that were fired on Israel tonight. Saddam Hussein had talked sometime earlier about perhaps having a larger missile. And in the beginning of this attack, when we first learned of it, we wondered if perhaps this might be the new missile he had been talking about. As the evening wore on, I think we all came to the conclusion, did we not, that indeed this was the Scud that we've all known about before. This was not something new.
It looks so. Now that we've looked at the damage, it really wasn't that much. It was a small area, although it looked extensive. But I think we don't have the new missile that perhaps we were worried he's going to hit us with.
So what should we be looking for now, General?
Well, I think now we're going to have to look for the results of these air attacks. Obviously, Saddam is not down. He's not out by any means. He's had his counterattacks, as we've heard. We've heard reports of his airplanes perhaps moving around. We don't know what the status of these forces are on the ground. So, as they said in this morning's briefing when General Powell and Secretary Cheney were talking, we're going to have to wait a while.
All right, and that's it from here. Back to the anchor desk.
Thank you very much, Bob Schieffer and General Christ. We lost our communication here for just a moment, as sometimes will happen in these situations. Among the things we'll be looking for as we turn the next hour and our continuous CBS News coverage goes on. We're monitoring what we believe to be a special cabinet meeting in Israel, with Yitzhak Shamir trying to decide whether Israel should respond and retaliate on its own to the Scud missile attacks by Saddam Hussein on Israel. We'll be watching the results of the latest air attacks against the Iraqis. We'll be watching bad weather moving in over Iraq and Kuwait, which could diminish some of the air attacks over the next 48-hour period. And, of course, we'll continue to monitor the movement of U.S. ground forces near the Kuwaiti border. Our CBS News coverage of war in the Gulf continues.
CBS News continuing coverage of Showdown in the Gulf. From CBS News headquarters in New York, here's Charles Osgood and Susan Spencer.
It is 2 a.m. Eastern Time. It is about 10 a.m. in the Persian Gulf. Here are the latest headlines from our Gulf War coverage. Israel's Prime Minister convenes his cabinet to discuss retaliation for Iraqi missile attack. Israel's military chief of staff says that Israel is obliged to retaliate. Some retaliation happening right now by Allied warplanes. The cabinet meets as Israel assesses the damage from the nighttime Iraqi attack. There were 8 confirmed hits by Scud missiles in Tel Aviv and other Israeli cities. There was damage, no question about that, but there was no loss of life, and there were about a dozen minor injuries. Correspondent Bill McLaughlin reports the cabinet appears to be leaning toward waiting for now to see the results of the new Allied air attacks. Baghdad appears calm this morning, nothing like the scene during the opening night of air attacks. Israeli gunners tried to fight off the waves of attacking Allied warplanes. The cameraman who took these stunning pictures gave his impressions.
But certainly the battle did light up the skies. The Iraqi ground defense systems, I think, were actually more pretty than effective. It's the first time I've seen a cruise missile land